Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Glass Man's World. So, we are about to get started here, make some more glass, work on some things here, and talk about the Sunday Nob Hill East Market. So, I've been working on these mushrooms here the last few days. Been trying to play with the oops. I just dropped one. Uh-oh, that one's lost forever. All right. So we got these cool mushrooms here, as you guys can see, and I am trying to do my best to get the gills underneath here. I'm trying. It's hard to line it up just right. So I'm getting like portions of it. Yeah, and then some of these, they don't look so well with the gills. So, but this is just an added detail. I mean, the mushrooms look awesome. You know, I'm just trying to get the gills on the bottom so it looks like it's got some real nice detail in there. What's going on, Seven Stacks? Thank you kindly. Appreciate you. Let me make sure we got the live chat on here. So yeah, I've been working on these amanita mushrooms. I got a whole bunch already hanging, and I'm working on some more here, hoping that we can get the detail of the gills on the bottom. And I don't know, maybe I need to do a better stringer. When I pulled this stringer here, as you can see, it's got all those lines, all that detail work in there. And then I pulled it thin, but I did this over clear glass. So when I pulled it thin, it kind of like goes clear right there. So I'm thinking maybe I should just do it solid black with the, just make a solid black one. I don't know. Did I do that? Like, I'm wondering, how did I do that? So, um, I wanted to let y'all know that for the last 2 years, every Sunday we've been setting up at this spot in Albuquerque called in Nob Hill. It's a little spot, and recently the restaurant next door or across the street from us, they abruptly closed. So not last Sunday, but the Sunday prior, we were all out there, and I'm gonna get started here. Let me get my glasses on here. Make sure we're always wearing the safety goggles here. So we've been at this Nob Hill East Market for the last like 3 years. I mean, not three, 2 years now. And so, hold on a sec. I gotta mute this video here. All right, and then that way I can see if there's anyone watching. We got a couple of likes already. Thank you for hitting that like, and thank you, Seven Stacks, for tuning in. So, we've been at this Nob Hill East Market. I've gone live there several times when I was blowing glass, doing live demos there and stuff. And, we've been there for like 2 years now. And it's been a nice run. It's been really cool to be a part of a new market. We were basically getting it going, starting it from the beginning. Friends of ours had opened up uh, a shop. You know, they moved from the mall into Nob Hill, which Nob Hill has been like, you know, that's always been home for me. I used to live in Nob Hill, several different places. Um, I used to have several businesses in the Nob Hill area, helping with managing several different businesses and doing a lot of things. You know, like the spot that we do the market at, you know, that used to be a, a I don't know, it was like some kind of a building that had it had a theater, a movie theater on the inside, and all kinds of like little office rooms and all these like little spots. And back in like 1997, 1998, like way long ago, 97, 98, I met some friends and they were part of a group called Family Productions. You can now look them up, familymoons.com. And Family, they were always doing safe raves, safe dance parties way back in the day. You know, they would always try to promote the whole drug-free, alcohol-free zones and get people to come out and have a good time, you know. And so they rented out this whole building back in like, I think it was like 97, 98, something like that. They rented out this whole building, and we did one of the largest family productions called, that one was called Foam. And we built this big old foam pit in the exact spot where our Sunday Nob Hill East markets are at every Sunday. It used to be a patio that was surrounded by a wooden fence, and you'd have to enter through the back of the building, and you'd get into the building through the alleyway side, and then you would enter into where all the offices and stuff are, and the movie theater, and we had these big old like machines that would push out foam, and we created like some of the earliest foam parties here in Albuquerque, in Nob Hill, right there at Solano and Central, right where we set up the Nob Hill East Market. So that spot alone, you know, our friend Phil used to rent the place upstairs. You know, he probably knows the landlord there, and we could probably like talk to them about like just can we keep the market going, and just have permission from the landlord. But I don't want to cause any rift or anything like that with the individuals that started up doing the Nob Hill East Market with us, or asked us to be a part of that. So you know, this whole area has been, you know, it's been a part of my life for a really long time. Nob Hill, that spot particularly, being part of the family productions. Like when I first met some of my friends from Family Productions, which is now Family Moons. You can go to familymoons.com and check them out. But Family Productions, you know, that was family. We are still family. And, you know, that was the first community where, you know, we built this community together, and we did a lot of different things together. You know, we didn't just create like the family production parties and stuff. You know, we had all kinds of other things going on. You know, we were part of the Hemp TV crew, and we did the production for that. We were part of the Delta 9 legalization coalition, and helped with the whole movement here in New Mexico and Albuquerque, and talking with the governors and representatives back then. You know, we did a lot of stuff. We created a beautiful community. The family production, or family, we're just family, you know, but a lot of people know us as Family Production or Family Moons or this and that. And so I've always had a connection to Nob Hill. I used to live just right down the street from there. Recently, in 20 what, between 2015 and 20, maybe it was like 2016, 2017, or 2015, 2016. 1 block away, we had the shop there that we rented for like, I don't know, it was like $2,100 a month. And it was a huge spot. It was an awesome place. And we were doing software, and we had all kinds of events going on there, and music, and a lot of cool stuff happening. You know, we were part of the, just right up the street from there, well, 1 more block over. So at Aliso, we used to have a spot. And then across the street, and on Morningside, right there, our friends used to have the New Mexico outpost, or what was it? The trading post, New Mexico trading post. And then they moved elsewhere. So we were doing events there for a while. We're doing events at Solano. Abatha's Apothecary was there before our friends had the space there. And so, you know, I've been doing glass blowing demos since like 1997, way back then. Abatha's Apothecary used to host me for the Twinkle Light Parade every year. And then there were like different events that would come up. Summerfest events would come up, and you know, I did a lot of different glass blowing demos for Summerfest. We eventually opened up our own shop on campus, the Cosmic Trading Post, which was a Artists and Healers Cooperative. And you know, our friend had the Guerrilla Graphics, which was right down the street from that spot on campus in Hermosa, which Hermosa is where I used to live and where the Drop of Water was formed. You know, it's like right in the heart of it. Solano is 1 block away from Hermosa. And so this whole area there, you know, it's like that whole spot is where I've been setting up for years, you know, including the La Montanita Co-op and their Earth Day Festival. You know, there's been so many different events. The ABQ Bite, where our friend Manny was managing that spot there until he passed away. You know, set up in the on Silver Street. You know, doing events on Harvard Street, which is down in the campus area, but still close to UNM. Setting up with Masky Moss, which I can easily just go and set up with Masky Moss anytime. Kiko has always invited me to set up in front of his shop. It's just a small spot, and I can't set up a 10 by 10 canopy there. But I could set up a table, and we can still vend and do stuff there and be in Nob Hill at Richmond and Central. You know, there's been so many different places. Tinta Cantina, I used to wholesale my body jewelry to them, and we used to do events with them, which is a block away from Solano, and where we used to host the Nob Hill East Market, the Sunday Nob Hill East Market. So recently, a shop on Central and Solano called The Pharmacy, I guess in the last 2 years, they opened up a shop in San Diego, California. So the owners started putting energy towards another location, another shop, and they had a lot of drawbacks and legal tie-ups and stuff, and they weren't able to get opened in the time that they thought they were going to be able to do so. They thought they were going to have both locations, and that both locations were going to help keep each other afloat. But then they had 2 years of complications and legal issues and things and insurance and whatever else. And so then, you know, they were running everything off of the one location here in Albuquerque, trying to get their San Diego, California location opened up. And I guess just recently, this year, I think in the springtime, they finally acquired the building that they've been trying to, like they've had, but they just weren't able to open or something for some reason. I don't know all of the story behind it, but they ended up just abruptly closing. I believe 2 weeks ago, 2 Sundays ago, we were there at the Nob Hill East Market. It was our last Nob Hill East Market. We didn't know it was going to be our last Nob Hill East Market. We had no warning or anything. And that day, we noticed that the pharmacy had closed and were empty. Their patio was empty before we were shut down. And usually what happens is we're open from 10 a.m. to 2, so we get there earlier by 8 or 9 o'clock, right? And we shut down at 2. Some people leave earlier. They pack up at 1:30 and they're out at 2. But some of us wait, and we packed up at 2, got out by like 3 o'clock. And the pharmacy would still have patrons there until about 3-ish, and they would start closing down around then. They would basically let their last patrons finish up their meals and stuff. And they, the dishwashers would get started with their things, and all the servers and things would get the tables wiped down that were already vacant and stuff like that. And they would get prepared for the next day. And I don't know if they were open 7 days a week or when. I never went there. I never ate there. I never found out whether it was any good or not. Never got to find out how the pharmacy was. I just knew that they had a big old pig on their sign, like a big old stamp for swine, and I don't eat too much pork, so it wasn't something that like was appealing to me. If anything, I would prefer to eat at the Thai Vegan Heritage, which is right there at Solano Central, in front of where, well, we were set up basically right in front of the Thai Vegan Heritage. We could possibly ask them if we could still set up and do a market there and promote them and their teas and things like that, and have them come and set up outside with us and things like that. But I don't want to cause a rift or anything with our friends who are hosting the market. But because the pharmacy shut down, which I believe was just abruptly 2 Sundays ago, and then it came out on the news, and then we're like, wait, what? Like, that's going to hurt our market. And then a day or two later, after finding out, then the host of the market just decided that we were no longer going to do it. There was no meeting. There was no talks. It was just like, okay, we're just done with it. So it was real sad that we didn't even have one last like hoorah, one last little, okay, well, let's all get together one last time and at least be able to say goodbye to each other. Like there wasn't even anything like that. Like we were done. We were set up 2 Sundays ago, and then we were just done. There was no say goodbye, no, well, let's meet up one more time, let's maybe have a potluck, let's have a little gathering. There was nothing. I was just like, wait, I thought we were building community and things. So it was pretty interesting that it just like stopped like that because the pharmacy shut down. And the pharmacy, they had their own issues and legal reasons why they shut down abruptly, and they're not able to fork out the last paychecks because of the bankruptcy laws here in New Mexico. So that's all in litigation. So anyone who's waiting for their last paychecks, it has to go through litigation. Like you now have to like become a part of that lawsuit and demand your last paycheck back. It's crazy. So it's just sad. We're gonna have to go. After so many years of being a part of that area in Nob Hill, and just thinking that, we're finally back in our region again. We're finally in the area. And then it was just done. All over again, just done. And it just seems like it's been that kind of trend for some reason where, you start things up, you put a lot of time and energy and effort into it. It's kind of like, you rent a place and then you get a garden going, and then you get evicted. And then it's like, oh, all that time and energy, all the soil's been planted, all the seeds, and now we just got to let it go and just uproot it all. Which, it's fine. I'm always okay with new beginnings and things like that. It just would have been nice to have had one last get together, a little gathering, with what I considered our family. Our Sunday family, the vendors there. And I know it's not just me who felt like it was just so abrupt and just like, whoa, what happened? And it wasn't like our friends who were hosting it, like their business shut down. I know they're having a hard time with taking care of their rent and things like that there, but they'll make it happen. And if not, they'll figure out how to make other things happen, When one door is closed, don't you know many more is open, right? Just like Bob Marley is always saying. I'm not concerned about that. I'm not concerned about that I might be losing some sort of money from the sales that we were doing on Sunday, because I wasn't really making too many sales. It wasn't about the money for me. It was about building community, being there every week, being able to enjoy each other's company there. We had good camaraderie. We had a good group of friends, of family there. And then for it to just like abruptly just go without no consideration for like any communication, any warning, any talks about it, any like, well, what are your guys' opinions on it? Like, it's just, the decision was made for several vendors who have been a part of this community and trying to make it happen, So it's sad to see that it's gone and we won't be there anymore. I don't know if we're going to be able to do any of the other events. I really do hope that we can still do the Twinkle Light Parade, the Nob Hill Summerfest that comes up, the Nob Hill Shop and Strolls, which will be coming up soon, the winter shop and stroll, and then they do the springtime and I think summer shop and stroll. I think there's 3, maybe 4 different shop and strolls throughout the year. There used to be a first Sunday shop and stroll, and I don't know if Nob Hill's even still promoting that or doing that, but when we were with ABQ Bite, that's what was going on, is they were doing a Nob Hill first Sunday shop and stroll. And so we were doing events there at ABQ Bite, maybe half a mile away, a few blocks from where we've been set up. And like I said, our friend Manny, he just passed away. It came pretty suddenly too. He got sick, and then within months he was gone, and that really sucked. I lost a good friend there. Someone that I love to just go, like, even though we didn't have a lot of people coming by, and the first Sunday Nob Hill shop and strolls, or whatever that the Nob Hill organization deemed it as, they didn't promote it, and there was no other businesses like even having vendors out in front or doing anything. It was weird. So we were the only shop out there on Central with vendors, and then there was a couple others on Silver at the Silver Street Market, and we were the only groups that were doing the Nob Hill, the first Sunday Nob Hill market. And then when our friend passed away, we lost our location there. And like I said, even though our events weren't really large or whatever, they were still good, and we were still like able to join, to hang out with each other and have. All I know is I really cherished the time that I had with my friend Manny, and the conversations that we would have every week and every time that we were there doing events. And I really miss him. you know, and we weren't making a lot of money. It wasn't about that for us. It was about building community, building family, building something for the rest of the community, for Albuquerque, for the local Nob Hill residents, something for them to do. Because there's nothing else going on in Nob Hill, you know? All these other different businesses are shutting down left and right. And, you know, there's like no one is really putting the energy and effort into making these things happen anymore. And it does take time, and it does take a lot of energy and a lot of effort to promote these things every day, not just one time here and there, but always promoting, constant promotion, and letting people know where we're going to be, what we're going to be doing, who's going to be there. Maybe we'll have new vendors and stuff. So, you know, when Manny passed at ABQ Bite, we went over there and joined them over at the Silver Street Market, because they were the only other ones who were doing anything. And then about a month or like 2 months into it, I think, then they decided that they were done doing the market, and they just shut it down. And we're like, wait, what? Like, I thought we were here for a minute, and now we're done here. And then we were doing the La Familia market for a while, and that's where we ran into our friend, and they opened up the shop in Nob Hill, the Nob Hill East shop there. And they decided that they were going to start doing a market there on the little patio, which is where 7 Clover, a local dispensary, used to always host their 420 events. And I used to vend at those events. And they would do the other, like anytime that the Twinkle Light Parade or the Nob Hill Shopping Strolls or the Summerfest would happen, they would always host the events there. And so you would have to contact 7 Clover if you wanted to vend or do anything there. But then they stopped doing the events, and that's when our friends moved in and started doing their events there. And that was awesome, because then it was like just moving right in after their events at 7 Clover. It just transitioned perfectly. But then 7 Clover shut down. And that was pretty interesting, that they just abruptly shut down. And it seems like a lot of businesses up and down Central have been getting forced to shut down because of situations with the unhoused population and things like that, and crime and break-ins and vandalism and all kinds of stuff like that. And then at the same time, there's businesses that are thriving and successfully doing well a block or two away. Businesses that have been there for years and years and decades, like the Neon Shop, you know, who he doesn't need any clientele to come in and walk in through his door, because he's got his own dynamic going, and he's been there for decades now. So, you know, you got different paradigms on what people are working on and stuff. And it's just interesting to me that when we're building up something like that community, that just because one business shuts down, and yeah, we were running off the trickle of the pharmacy. So when people would go to the pharmacy, they had a line out the door. That's how popular they were. So it's crazy that they just shut down abruptly like that. But they did have a line out the door, and people always waiting. And so when their patrons were waiting, they would simply come over and check out what we had going on across the street. And then, like, there were times like when it would be cold, and we would be able to offer them to come inside to the shop where the host was then creating T-shirts or embroidery or doing like now doing jewelry, and I think doing like engraving and I don't know, like all kinds of different things. And so in the winter times it was a nice spot because then they could get out of the cold if they wanted to and go inside and warm up. Or in the heat, if it was too hot, they could go out, get out of the sun and go inside and into the air conditioner. So it was a nice little dynamic when the pharmacy was open. And yes, sales were slow, and it wasn't really helping to pay the bills there for their rent and stuff, you know, but we were building it slowly. And, you know, I figured we had the momentum of what we had going. And there were people who came by there that weren't going to the pharmacy, that simply would come by and come shopping and visit us. They specifically came down looking for certain vendors. So I didn't think that we were 100% piggybacking off of pharmacy. But I understand too that if you can't promise your vendors that they're going to have a lot of patrons and they're going to be able to make decent sales and things like that, I understand that you might have to throw in the towel. But there should have been some sort of communication with that. And we should at least did one little gathering so we could have all gotten together just to be family and to hang out. So I'm currently looking for a new spot on Sundays. I might just like move around from market to market now. You know, that's the one thing, is that even though I was there on Sundays every Sunday, it wasn't panning out for sales for me all the time. I was just there because I wanted to always keep continuity, to make sure that we were always there. So then people just knew, you know, to create that presence on Sunday, to be a part of creating the presence there. I knew that I wasn't making as much money as I would have at other different markets. You know, I knew if I had set myself up at other markets, I would have made more money on Sundays. That's not why I was there. I was there to help build a community and then just let people know, like, hey, welcome to Nob Hill. Welcome to Central Boulevard, Route 66. This is a cool little spot right here. We've got some awesome local artists and vendors here and crafters, and come check out our wares. You know, for me, it wasn't about how much money I was making. I already knew that Sundays for me were going to be lax, and if I made a little bit extra, then that was cool. And what was cool was that one of the hosts understood that. You know, that we sometimes didn't make a lot of money on sales, and so she would allow us to, like, she would just be like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about paying for the spot. You didn't make enough money. You know, you could be here with us. And that's what I loved. That's the family that we created. We created that community there. We created that bond, that friendship, that camaraderie, helping each other out, you know. And there were times when I did do well and I tried to offer the funds, and she would still be like, I know that you're still like struggling and to come up with the rent and this and that. And she was always awesome in that way, you know. But I also know that she felt that, you know, it was hard to get the people to be there for her vendor. And when people weren't making money, and then she was like going around asking for the fees, it was a hard thing for her to do. I get that. and then she wants to just give it away for free, but that's not helping with the business there either, with their business. So I understand why it's got to shut down. I just wish we had one last hoorah that we could have all gotten together, and we could have at least like did a little celebration together and been like, well, if we're all going to go out together, let's do it with a little bang, right? And have a nice little celebration about it. And also, maybe give it a month and see, well, is that pharmacy really what's helping to sustain us, or can we sustain the market on our own? But we didn't even give it a try. There was no try. There was just a nope, done. So I feel real bad. I feel sad that, it was like, getting evicted, just getting kicked out, done. No explanation as to why. We're just done. It's over, canceled. I tried to set up at the flea market last week, which was cool because that was the first spot that I ever set up with my glass way back in 1997. So it was cool to be there, nostalgic, but I paid $25 for my spot, and I only made $15 in sales. And I also spent $4 on Nag Champa. So I spent money being there instead of making money. But it was cool. It was nostalgic. And I think that if I'm there every week, that I could build a following. That people would then be like, oh yeah, the glass guy is there. And maybe I could bring out my torch and do demos there. I'm going to have to really find out where I can and can't set up. Who will allow me to set up. I may actually have to get a hold of the fire marshal and figure out what sort of insurance I personally need, so that way I can just set up wherever I want, anywhere, and have my own business license and my own business permit, so I could set up at any vacant lot or corner as long as I got the permission of the landowner. I would love to invest in a truck and a trailer and have that as a mobile glass blowing studio. I think that would be the coolest thing. I've always wanted to do that. So for now, since I can't do first Sunday glass blowing demos, live glass blowing demos every first Sunday of the month, I'll just be wherever I'm setting up. I'll be taking out the screen and at least showing my live glass blowing demos and stuff. I know that my friend Polite at Polite Smoke Shop, she would probably just host me to set up there and blow glass every Sunday if I wanted to on San Mateo and Lomas. I don't know if I could set up and blow glass in front of Masky Moss in Nob Hill. There's a few other friends that I know in the area there that I can find out if we can do something. There's still the Morningside corner where the Domino's used to be, and we used to have events there. That's where the Abatha's Apothecary used to be. And then our friends had the shop there, the NM Trading Post, which is all like native shirts and aerosol canvas and cans and things. All right, there's a mushroom right there for you. So I'm just going to continue making a bunch of merchandise and I'll just figure out where I'm going to be. Our Friday markets have ended. We were at the La Familia market on Fridays, and last Friday was the last one of the season. A lot of these events are seasonal, but then there's going to be some that are coming up, like the winter events, the Christmas bazaars and all of that. There's going to be a lot of local schools that host like craft markets and fairs and things like that. So there'll be a lot of opportunity for us to go elsewhere on Sundays. It was just really nice having an established place to be and letting people know that they could always find me in a certain spot. And we were slowly getting that draw and slowly getting a pull. People were coming out there. Like, I know I had people coming out there who were not coming over from the pharmacy. They came over specifically looking for me, knowing where I was, and to come check out the other vendors because I let them know that we had a market every Sunday. There were people who just finally were like, wait, you guys have been doing this for over a year and a half, almost 2 years now? People in the area, they're just like, realizing it. Not everyone goes out every Sunday and checks out the neighborhood. Sometimes it takes a while for the locals to even catch on what's going on. But we were finally getting that little bit of people established knowing, hey, you're going to be here, you're going to be there. My wife was just saying how, just recently she ran into someone and was like, they were like, oh yeah, we see your husband there on Sundays up in Nob Hill. Like they knew where to find me. So it just sucks that, working 2 years, putting all this energy and effort, creating the event page on Facebook and then promoting that every week and several times a week, and then, having them as co-hosts but never having them post up in there. It was weird. Like, are we trying to get this event going? Like, why are you not also promoting in this event? It was a weird thing. So, I don't know. I think we could have tried harder and it would have done better. And I think we could have still kept it going. I think we can still keep it going. Even if we just let one weekend go, we could still just decide to let it happen. Their store doesn't even have to be open. We would just need their permission to be there on Sundays, so we don't cause any risk. We would just need their permission to be like, yeah, you can be there. We're just not going to open the doors and you won't have a place to use the bathroom. So you'll have to figure all that out. And then we would just have to figure that out, right? I don't know. It is what it is, though, right? So, like I said, I was already set up at the flea market last Sunday. I've already trying to establish new spots, and we'll figure it out. One good thing, though, is that the owners there, and the one who, we've been working closely together this whole time, she sent me a lot of different invites to other events, and she's really, feels bad. I know she does. And, I'm not trying to cause any issues or nothing. I think it's okay to voice what's going on and talk about the truth of the matter. And I'm not being hateful. I'm not holding a grudge against anyone. It's just, it is as it is, right? It's just, this is what happened, and so be it. It would have been nice to have one last time, though. And it would have been nice to have a little bit of some communication before just finding out on a Facebook post that it's canceled. Or through a messenger, right? We could have all showed up on Sunday, and then we could have talked about it. It's like, hey, well, since the pharmacy shut down And since we didn't have many people visit us today, we could at least tried it out. We could have also all hung out together and said our goodbyes, but we didn't even have that opportunity. Like now, we're going to have to try to find each other at different events or see if we can figure out a new event together or something like that. Like, I don't know. It was just too abrupt, I think. It's, you know, without having like that 30-day eviction notice. You don't even get a 3-day. Well, maybe we got a 3-day notice. We might have got a 3-day notice. I think it was posted on a Thursday. Maybe it was a Friday. Maybe it was Saturday. I don't know. So, what I'm going to be doing on Sundays is I'll probably just be going live and showing off some items. So if anyone is interested in making a purchase on any items, and I'd rather send out in bulk instead of just one item here or there. So if there's anyone who's interested in like purchasing in bulk for resale, so you can make money, contact me and let me know. But also if you're interested in just like one piece or something like that, it would just be wise to purchase something that costs more than $5 because the shipping will probably be $7. Alright, so right now I'm just working on these mushrooms here. I push in the caramel or the butterscotch so that way you get this like the mushroom stem, and then we're going to add on top of that, and we're using the new black and caramel or butterscotch. I don't know if it's caramel or butterscotch or caramel or caramel or caramel. I love saying that word in all the different ways. How do you say it? How do you say caramel, 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 caramels and caramels and caramels and caramels and caramels? Alright, so now I just added that little bit of those lines, caramel and black, and I don't know if you can see any kind of pattern work in there or not. It might need to cool down. But then I flatten that, and then I got to add the cherry red over it, on top of it. And that's the mushroom cap. I'm getting these done pretty quick nowadays. I see others are selling them for like $60. And I can't see myself asking. I couldn't even double these. I'm like, what? $40? I think if I price these at $40, it would take a lot longer for me to sell them compared to $20. That's what I think. Alright, well, I'm gonna let you guys go after making this last one here. I just wanted to kind of let you know that the Nob Hill East Market is gone. It's a farewell, goodbye, c'est la vie, so long, sayonara, see you later, hasta luego, hasta la mañana. Nope, not tomorrow. We're not seeing you tomorrow. Hasta la vista, baby. And I don't think we'll be back. Maybe for the Twinkle Light Parade. I don't even know. But I just wanted to say goodbye to all of our supporters, all of our patrons, everyone who came by to visit, all of our friends, all of our new family, everyone that was a part of the Sunday Nob Hill East Market. To our hosts, thank you so much for hosting us for as long as you did. We appreciate you allowing us to use your space and the restrooms and storing things there from time to time, and helping me out with rides in the early times when I didn't have any way of getting there. I appreciate it all. And it's just sad to have to say goodbye in such an abrupt form like this without giving any warning or any notice to our public and letting people know, hey, this is going to be our last event. We won't be here next week. To at least be out there and show face to people. But maybe the hosts are right, and maybe no one would have been there. But how would we know unless we were there, right? So we'll never know. They'll never know. How are they going to know? They'll never know. Alright, so after putting the color on top there and getting the mushroom and then the dots on there over the what I call the spores, then we're going to cover this. Oh, do I even have it in view? Sorry. And then we're going to cover this with this clear glass and encase it without trapping any air bubbles. That's the trick. And making it look like it just somehow magically appeared inside there. Maybe on Sundays I'll just do live glass blowing demos. And we'll do it to where I don't talk about anything else and we just keep it straight up, strictly just glass. Nothing but glass. Maybe we'll call it that. Nothing but glass. Just the tips. I'm going to give you a bunch of glass tips. What's crazy is I just recently purchased that second torch so I could do live glass blowing demos, and I was going to pull it out this very first Sunday of the month coming up. I was going to test it out for the first time, and now I'm like, okay, well, I'll just have to bust it out at some point and hook it up so I can just test it out. But that was going to be my first demo with the new torch this coming Sunday. Or not this coming Sunday, Is it? No, maybe it'll be the next. We got one more week in October. So what would it be? The Dia de los Muertos. Halloween. I don't know when's Halloween, actually. Well, either way, I'm not doing any glass blowing demos at the Sunday Nob Hill East Market. There will be no glass blowing demos at the Sunday Nob Hill East Market. There is no more Sunday Nob Hill East Market. Maybe we'll set up and just post up some vendors for the Twinkle Light Parade. That would be really awesome. That would be really cool to still be able to be a part of the Twinkle Light Parade. If not, then, you know, no biggie. I just go and enjoy it with the family. There's one event coming up in December, but I don't know if I can get in it or not. I think they might be full with their vendor list already. But it's at the Balloon Museum, and being that I have glass balloons, they might allow me to get in, and then they might not. There might be cancellation that I could then get in on someone's cancellation or something like that. But I just asked today, or I asked yesterday if there were more spots, and then she just sent me the link, and then this morning she just said that they were full on vendors. I'm like, wait, I was just about to read the application and then probably send you the money. But that's okay. Oh, this one's weird. Why did it do that? The underneath where the gills are, it looks like it's kind of protruding out instead of stuck underneath the cap and everything. That's interesting. I think I know why. I think because I flattened it out differently before putting that red on. And I didn't engulf the red over it. I just kind of flattened it to it, so it's going to stick out. So this coming Sunday, I'll probably just do a live glass blowing demo here from the home, unless there's a cool market. I don't know if I'm going to do the flea market again. Maybe we go back to the flea market and just establish at the flea market again. I don't know. It's been since 1997 that I was set up there, and it kind of felt cool to be out there. There was a lot of people coming through. And I think, you know, in the springtime and the summertime, it'll get even more busier, and the sales will be better. So, you know, maybe use this time to just establish, and I might just have to spend a little bit of money to just be there, which, you know, $25, that's not a big loss. Not at all. For the amount of traffic that they have, it's worth it. You know, when you're at a little small market and then they're asking you like 20 to 40 bucks, and you're like, but you don't even have the patrons here. Like, how can you ask that much? You know? There's some markets where we got a lot of patrons, but it's a slow crowd for sales. and they only ask $5. You know, there's some markets they only ask like $5 or $10 because they know that there's not very many people who are visiting. And then there's some markets like, you know, the one I'm trying to get into, it's $70. There's some markets where I've paid, you know, close to $200, $180 for a booth space. Maybe they provided the table. Maybe. Like maybe they provided the table and chairs and a tablecloth for $280. I've done all kinds of different events throughout the years. You know, I've been blowing glass for 30 years. So I've done high-end events, high-end markets, done low-end, done free. I've been paid for my demonstrations instead of just giving them away for free. You know, bringing out my torch to do live demonstrations, usually I get paid $100, you know, for a couple hours. Because it takes a lot to have to break down my torch and break down my studio and have to tear it all down, go set it up over there, tear it all down again to bring it back home so I could set it up again. That's why I invested in the second torch, so I didn't have to just tear down everything. There would only be a few things I'd have to do, like bringing my hand tools, bringing all the glass here, so my table would still get cleared out here and there. But it was going to be so much easier. And I mean, it is going to be, because I'm still going to be doing live glass blowing demos somewhere, just not at the Nob Hill East Market anymore. I regret to inform you all that my first Sunday live glass blowing demos are not happening in Nob Hill anymore. And I believe I only did 2 of them for the first Sundays. I did several others. But specifically for the first Sunday, glass blowing demos that I was promoting on our Sunday Nob Hill East markets. And then eventually I was going to do every other week. And then if it panned out, I was going to start doing every Sunday. And then just slowly bring people in, you know. If they find out there's a glass blower there, people come. And I was going to allow myself to do that for free and not ever ask, you know, $100 for a couple hours. I was never going to ask the market to pay me a couple $100 to be there the whole day, or you know, $100 for a couple hours. I was never going to do that. I was always going to do it for free. But it is what it is, and we got to say goodbye to the Sunday Nob Hill East Market. So with that being said, I'm sad to say goodbye. Sad to see it go. Sad to see all that time and energy. It just seems like, you know, it's just all for what? We didn't even get to promote anything on where we're going to be. Say goodbye. There was no transition out. It's just done. But we'll be all right. I'll be all right. You know, I'll be okay. I can sell glass online. I can sell glass in from my home. I can sell glass at markets. I can sell glass by wholesaling them to people and have other people sell my glass for me. I'm not worried about it at all. I'm just, you know, the principle of it is that no one had any communication. None of the vendors were told anything. It just stopped on us. So we're all sad to say goodbye. We're all sad that we can't do it at least one more time. And maybe we'll do the Twinkle Light Parade. I really hope so, but I don't know. With that being said, I'm going to let you guys go. I'm going to continue working, and I just want to keep this to an hour or less. Keep all my live streams an hour or less. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. Goodbye, Nob Hill East Market. I'll see you guys somewhere in the future on a Sunday, maybe a Monday, probably not a Taco Tuesday. All right. You guys have a good day. Love and blessings. I'm out.